Your printmaking challenge is all about the masking technique. Masking involves covering up an area so you can create art across and around it without ruining that spot. You can use masking when you're painting as well. You can cover an area and paint around it. But in printmaking, we're going to use, for our printmaking challenge, we're going to use a lot of different kinds of stamps. They have texture on them. Does anyone know what texture is? What is texture?
Texture is like a design in something else.
Okay, could look like a design, that yes.
So it feels real. Like if it doesn't feel real, but it has like bumps or
It could feel like there are bumps on it, sure. So it could be actual texture where you're touching and feeling it, sure. What would visual texture be? Where we can't really feel it, but we can, yes.
You can like see the ridges, but you can't feel them because they're smooth when you go across the top of them.
Great, so you can actually see the ridges, bumps, or lines that makes you sense what they might feel like if you actually could feel it. So right now, I'm going to go through your printmaking challenge that involves adding texture into your picture and masking. To do your printmaking challenge, you'll need your direction sheet, which is on my Art Lab website, but you also have some printouts. It'll give you your materials that you will need. You're going to need a sheet of paper that you will print on. You are going to need a couple of stamps that you're interested in, so I'm choosing two that I'm interested in. You could use some of these brayers and texture rollers or other found objects to create more prints in your picture if you would like to. There's lots of different opportunities here for adding both texture and design and interest into your prints. You're going to need to also rewatch this video. If you forget some steps, it's going to be on my Art Lab website. We have some paint, just regular liquid paint, paintbrush. You need to be able to write your name and class code on your paper. So you write your name at the top, class code, you flip it over. You have your materials available next to you. You also need a small sheet of any kind of scrap paper. So you can get it from the scrap box if you want, or you look for a small sheet like I have. And your other sheet that's going to be your final copy should be bigger. You choose one of your stamps that you want to start off with. And you think about what you might want to do with it. So sometimes I like to just kind of lay it out on my paper and think, what in the world can I do with all these interesting things that I have? Maybe I can make a scene of nature, since a lot of these stamps that I have flowers and insects. There's also some leaves in here too, different kinds of leaves. Some of them are torn, which could be kind of neat for a fall scene. Some of them have interesting edges to them. Some of them are huge. I have odd stamps that have designs on them. Some have people. Some don't have anything that you can identify at all. It's just a line design. So you think about what you might want to make a whole scene with, and you start off with just one. You'll follow your directions. So it says to use a paintbrush and paint over your first stamp. You want to get into all the edges, sure, but you're really concerned about things that pop up off of it. So you don't have to coat it with thick layers of paint. Just a smooth layer across will do just fine. Next it says press the rubber stamp onto your medium-sized paper. So this medium-sized paper here is your final copy paper. Where will it look the nicest for your whole composition? That's where you're going to put it. Maybe I want it off to the side like it's flying on the paper. Maybe it's going half off. Maybe it's right smack in the middle. I'm going to put it off to the side a little bit. These rounded rubber stamps need a little roll when you press down. So I'm kind of wiggling and pressing evenly with my hands. Put a little push down, lift it up. You want it to have the texture still. You want it to have those edges. It doesn't have to have everything that the paint was on it. It's a printed stamp. So you want to see those lines that were carved into it. You don't need to go back in and paint inside of it. You leave it the way it is. The next direction says to re-ink the rubber stamp with a different color. Press the painted rubber stamp on a smaller piece of paper. So I've got my smaller piece of paper. I don't want to mess up what I did before. I'm going to re-ink it with another color. I did leave a water cup here just in case I wanted to clean my brush off, but if your colors mix well together, that's okay. You can just dip it right in. Grabbing some of this paint, spreading my paints evenly across, not coating it with thick layers. And then I'm going to roll it onto my second scrap sheet of paper. When I mentioned masking before, I said it was to cover an area so that I can paint or draw around it. What do you think I might need this sheet for then? Yes?
You might put it next to the other one and draw designs on the side.
Okay, I could cut it out and paste it in so I have another color thing in here, sure. But I'm going to mask this. What do you think I'm going to need to do with this extra sheet of paper? Yes?
Cut the design out.
Absolutely. And then what? If I'm going to mask it, what do you think I need to do with it? I'm going to make sure that my original is not ruined in any way, shape, or form when I draw and paint around it. What should I do with this after it's cut out? Yes?
Press it back onto the original.
Great. And it does say that in my directions. After, cut out the prints and put it close to the edge of the paper, covering up my original. So I'm covering it up. That allows me to overlap and stamp and print more, or paint or draw a scene going right across that original stamp and not ruining it. So I could experiment now with fun, unique objects like these people, these texture rollers, all kinds of fun things that I have around me. I can get another color from the painting card, put a little bit of paint on here again, use a new color. I'm going to grab this leaf, and I'm going to make a nice fall brown leaf. Let's see what the leaf looks like when I stamp it across. I got nice edges here that I'm going to make sure it's evenly painted across. You will find the darker color paints show up better than the lighter color because the lighter colors are kind of see-through. So when you use these dark colors, you tend to get a whole lot more lines visible. And I did go right on top of my masked area. This paper that I cut out, though, is the same shape as my original stamp. I went right across it. I'm overlapping it. Not worried about my dragonfly from before getting ruined. There we go. So you'll see it's covered right on top of my masked area. It didn't move around. I'm going to lift this up. It's protected. It's got the nice area, and you can see the little lines from the leaf before. I could do this again and again as ever many times as I want, as long as I'm keeping my mask clean. You can always make a second mask if it really gets that ruined, but I'm going to overlap one more time, and I think I'm going to turn this into some sort of landscape picture dealing with leaves and the dragonfly. I'll have a nice landscape in the background. Maybe I'll use my brayers here and have a fun, oh, there it is. Look at how pretty that is, the little texture from that leaf. You can see all the lines. So I could grab, look at this texture, it's like squiggly. I'm going to go roll right into the blue. And I'm going to make a little border here. This is another form of printmaking. It's copying the texture that's on this roller, going all the way across the edges. So replicating the same design over and over again. So this is not complete, but it's a great beginning. I'm going to hand draw in some fun things in the background here, or maybe paint, or maybe use oil pastel, and fill up this empty space with line drawing. I think I'm going to do some branches and maybe put another dragonfly print in. But that's what I want to do with it. I showed you how to mask. I showed you how to use the stamps and the brayers. Showed you how to gather your materials. You can do any sort of composition you want with these. There's all kinds of handy-dandy fun textures all throughout these bins. You will be required to clean it as you go. You will be required to be very creative with it and not copy what I did. But I want to see masking, and I want to see use of your printmaking tools. Enjoy!